Print. You spend a few days inside this high-end fortress, and then you just completely vanish from existence.
Like a ghost.
Exactly, not just from the hotel, but from the world.
Oh.
Your entire identity. Imagine, just for a second, that you are checking into a luxury hotel today.
Okay.
You walk up to the gleaming front desk. You don't hand over a credit card. You don't show a driver's license.
Right.
And you don't leave a single digital footprint. You spend a few days inside this high-end fortress, and then you just completely vanish from existence.
Like a ghost.
Exactly, not just from the hotel, but from the world.
Oh.
Your entire identity completely erased.
It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller.
It really does. But what we're looking at today is a very real, honestly baffling mystery from 1995. Welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are digging into the case of the woman known as Jennifer Fairgate at the Radisson Blu Plaza Hotel in Oslo, Norway.
A fascinating case.
So let's set the scene for you. The date is Wednesday, May 31st, 1995. The time is 10:44 p.m. An elegant, well-dressed woman approaches the reception desk of the 37-story Plaza Hotel in Oslo.
Keep in mind, this is a massive, very busy luxury hotel.
Right. And witnesses remember her speaking fluent English and German with no discernible accent. She checks in using the name Jennifer Fairgate. But here's where it gets really interesting. She actually misspells her own assumed last name as Fergate twice on the registration forms. Fergate.
Which is our very first red flag.
Yeah.
You don't misspell your own name unless you're incredibly nervous or the name you've only just recently adopted.
Exactly.
But what's really fascinating here is the complete lack of a paper trail at the desk. She agrees to pay 1,845 kroners per night, which was a substantial amount for a five-star hotel in the 90s. Yet she doesn't provide a credit card.
Wait, hang on. How does that even happen? Even back in 1995, luxury hotels had those chunky manual credit card imprinters.
The ones that go chunk over the carbon paper, yeah.
Right. You couldn't just walk into a five-star hotel, ask for a top-floor room, and not give them a card for incidentals.
Exactly. How she bypassed the hotel's strict payment policies remains one of the greatest unknowns of this entire case. It implies either a monumental failure of hotel protocol or a level of confidence and persuasion on her part that made the front desk clerk simply forget to ask.
That is wild.
On top of that, she writes down a home address in Verlaine, Belgium, and lists an employer named Service.
And let me guess, neither of those are real.
Not even close.
Oh.
Investigators later proved that the street name didn't exist, the phone numbers were dead ends, and the company's service was entirely fake. Furthermore, she registers a second guest on the room, a man named Lois Fairgate.
Okay, so she gets the T cards for room 2805, way up on the 28th floor. Now, her actual stay at the hotel is practically ghostly.
It is.
The electronic keycard data from the door locks tells a very weird story. She wasn't just hanging out in a room watching movies or enjoying the minibar. She was absent from the room for massive chunks of time.
Right.
At one point, the logs show she was gone for anywhere from 20 to 24 hours straight.
See, the electronic logs are crucial here because they ground us in reality. We aren't relying on human memory. We know exactly when that door opened and closed.
Yeah.
She was treating the room more like a drop site or a staging area than a place to vacation. And remember that second guest, Lois.
The mysterious Lois.
On the afternoon of Thursday, June 1st, a maid came in to clean and noted the room was completely unoccupied. The bed hadn't been slept in, and the extra duvet the hotel had provided for Lois was neatly stashed away.
Totally unused.
Totally unused. No one ever saw him.
So she's treating this five-star room like a ghost. But she does interact with the outside world exactly one more time. On Friday, June 2, at 8:06 p.m., she calls room service.
Right.
She orders a hot bite, which is the hotel's casual meal of bratwurst and potato salad. When the attendant delivers the food, she hands over a massive 50 kroner tip, which was about $8 at the time.
For a simple room service drop-off in 1995, that is a highly unusual, very generous tip.
Yeah, that's huge.
Psychologically, it's the kind of tip you give when you have plenty of cash to burn. Or perhaps when you know you aren't going to be needing that cash much longer.
Wow. That's a chilling thought, because after that door closes, nobody ever sees Jennifer Fairgate alive again. Which brings us to the events of Saturday, June 3, and the locked room mystery that has completely puzzled investigators for decades.
Let's lay out the facts of that Saturday evening. Between Thursday and Saturday, the hotel's automated system had sent multiple messages to her television screen demanding payment.
Because they still didn't have a card on file.
Precisely. When those warnings went unheeded, a security guard was dispatched to knock on door 2805 at exactly 7:50 p.m.
And the second he knocks on that door, he hears a loud boom from inside the room, a gunshot.
Yes, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the guard's reaction to that gunshot creates a critical 15-minute factual gap in the timeline.
Because he leaves, right?
He leaves.
He hears a literal gunshot, and his reaction is basically, I better go downstairs and get my manager. I mean, it is arguably the worst possible time to follow the standard chain of command.
It really is. Instead of staying by the door, taking cover, or using a radio to call the police immediately, the guard leaves the door completely unattended for 15 minutes to physically fetch the head of hotel security.
15 minutes.
By the time they both return to the 28th floor at 8:04 p.m., the room is completely dark, and the door is double locked from the inside.
We should clarify what that means because it's vital. A double lock on a hotel door isn't just a click of the handle.
No.
It's a physical deadbolt. It means it could only be locked by someone currently standing inside the room. So security finally opens the door, and I'll walk you through exactly what the police found when they arrived shortly after.
Let's do.
The room smells acrid, heavily of burnt gunpowder. The woman is found dead on the bed with a single gunshot wound to her forehead. In her right hand, she is holding a 9mm Browning pistol. Weapons experts later determined it was actually a Hungarian copy of a Browning from the 60s or 70s.
We really need to apply strict analytical pressure to this crime scene, because staying focused on the physical evidence reveals a multitude of contradictions here. First, look at the grip she had on the weapon. Her thumb is resting on the trigger, while her other fingers are clasped around the back of the handle.
Wait, her thumb?
Yes.
Try pantomiming that right now. Holding a heavy 9mm backward, pointing it at yourself with your thumb on the trigger? That is a highly awkward, almost unnatural way to hold a pistol.
It is incredibly awkward.
It sounds practically impossible to do without dropping the heavy weapon due to the recoil.
But the anomalies with the gun do not stop there. The forensic analysis found absolutely zero blood spatter and zero gunshot residue on her hands. None.
This is the part that blows my mind. The crime scene photos show the room was so covered in blood that it literally reached the ceiling.
Right.
How do you fire a powerful 9mm handgun into your own forehead, get blood all the way up to the ceiling, but keep your hands completely spotless?
It defines the basic physics of the scene.
Yeah.
The recoil, the blowback from the muzzle, there should be residue. Furthermore, investigators found that 2 shots had been fired in that room.
2?
Yes. One was the fatal shot, but another bullet had been fired through a pillow and into the mattress. It was almost like a test shot, or perhaps a warning shot to scare off the guard at the door.
But if you think 2 bullets is weird, let's talk about the ammunition they found. Police discovered a black Braun Buffel briefcase in the room. Inside that briefcase were 25 loose rounds of 9mm ammunition, plus another 7 rounds loaded in the pistol's magazine.
That is a staggering 32 bullets for someone allegedly planning to end their own life.
That's an excessive amount of firepower.
It is. And it sits right alongside another bizarre extreme in this room: the deliberate erasure of her identity. Almost every single clothing tag on her garments had been meticulously cut out.
Literally snipped off.
Someone had taken scissors and snipped the manufacturer labels off practically everything she owned.
The only exception was a single tag on a René Lazard blazer. There are no car keys in the room, no passport, no wallet, no credit cards.
Nothing.
And bizarrely, she had no bottom half clothing in her luggage. No skirts, no trousers, no jeans, just the top half clothing in her bags and the long silk underwear she was wearing when she died. It's as if she walked into the hotel in a trench coat and nothing else.
This meticulous removal of identifiers, what intelligence agencies refer to as scrubbing your pocket litter, forces us to look closer at the few items that actually survived this purge.
Right, pocket litter.
Pocket litter, for context, is the everyday stuff we all carry. The random receipts, the train tickets, the gym membership cards. Spies and operatives actively avoid carrying it because it tells a story of everywhere you've been.
It's a breadcrumb trail.
Exactly. She had zero pocket litter. But she did have one fascinating piece of surviving evidence on her left wrist. She was wearing a Citizen Aqualand dive watch, specifically model CQ1212150.
Now, when I first heard watch, I was picturing a sleek, elegant Rolex or a delicate Cartier piece, but it's not that at all, is it?
No, think the exact opposite. The Aqualand is a clunky, robust, heavily utilitarian military tool watch. It literally has a depth gauge sticking out of the side of it. It even has no decompression limits printed right on the rubber strap.
Like the hardcore diving metric to prevent getting the bends if you swim up too fast.
Exactly. It's a piece of specialized hardware heavily issued to European special operations units like the British Special Boat Service and the Danish Frogman Corps.
Wow.
It contrasts sharply with her otherwise fashionable, elegant clothing. Tracing this specific watch provided one of the only concrete leads in the case. Investigators found it contained 3 Renata 370 type batteries. On these batteries, someone had hand-etched the code W395. Yes, this is a standard watchmaker's mark, indicating the batteries were installed in March of 1995, just a few months before her death. The W might even be the initial of the watchmaker.
It's a tiny thread, but it's something. And years later, science gave us a few more threads to pull on. In 2016, her body was exhumed. Remember, she wrote her age as 21 on the hotel form.
Right.
But exhumed DNA and isotope analysis of her teeth proved she was actually around 24 years old, born around 1971.
And that isotope analysis is a phenomenal scientific tool. Basically, as your adult teeth form when you are a child, the specific minerals in your local groundwater-like strontium become permanently locked in your dental enamel.
Which gives you a location.
It creates a geographical signature. Her strontium levels strongly indicated she grew up in Germany.
She also had incredibly expensive gold and porcelain dental work, the kind of high-end dentistry done in places like the US, Switzerland, or Germany.
Yeah.
But the biggest bombshell from that autopsy, it wasn't the teeth. It was the stomach contents. The medical examiner determined that the bratwurst she ordered on Friday night was eaten a full 24 hours after she ordered it.
This raises an incredibly important question that completely upends the timeline. Think about it. If she ate the food 24 hours later, the digestion rate suggests she actually died on Friday night or early Saturday morning.
Okay, but
But the security guard heard the gunshot on Saturday evening at 7:50 p.m.
so what does this all mean? If she was already dead on Friday, who fired that second shot through the pillow when the guard knocked on Saturday night?
Just totally breaks the locked room suicide theory.
Completely shatters it. And we haven't even mentioned the other odd items in the room. A nearly empty bottle of men's Ungaro Porlamine cologne, a simple gold ring on her right middle finger, and a plastic bag for a USA Today newspaper addressed to room 2816, a room down the hall, which had an unidentified fingerprint on it.
With all of these puzzle pieces on the table, let's dissect the theories,
Yeah.
strictly using the sources and the evidence we've just laid out.
Yeah.
Theory number 1 is the official police conclusion: suicide. The Norwegian authorities initially ruled this a suicide with 99.9% certainty. The mechanics of the door are their primary anchor here. The room was double locked from the inside, with no signs of forced entry.
Right. Their logic is, if a killer was in there, how did they lock a deadbolt from the inside and vanish into thin air? The police believe this could simply be a tragic case of a deeply desperate woman who wanted to erase herself from the world, perhaps to spare her family the pain, and she succeeded entirely.
It is a sobering possibility and one we must respect and keep on the table. But the physical evidence we just discussed, the spotless hands, the awkward thumb grip on the trigger, the sheer volume of ammunition, and that critical missing 15 minutes where the guard left the hallway, brings us to theory number 2, intelligence and espionage.
This is where the investigative sources really dig in. Watches of Espionage consulted with former CIA operative John Cipher, and the documentaries feature Norwegian intelligence's Ola Kuldiger. They both point out that her actions align perfectly with professional intelligence tradecraft.
Let's look at that tradecraft. The use of cash to avoid a paper trail, the throwaway aliases, the use of a luxury hotel for operational meetings, and of course the systematic removal of the pocket litter and the clothing tags.
Right.
These are standard practices for covert operatives attempting to stay off the grid. Former CIA operative John Cipher noted a very specific historical context for 1995. Following the fall of the Berlin Wall, a massive number of highly trained former East German Stasi officers were suddenly unemployed.
Which is a huge detail.
It is. Many of them transitioned into freelance work for Russian intelligence or organized crime syndicates in Europe.
Now, we are just impartially analyzing the sources here, not taking any political sides.
Of course. Purely based on the expert analysis in the source material, given her German origins, her fluency in languages, and her tactical military watch, experts argue she fits the profile of a professional operative perfectly.
It's just one piece of the puzzle, but it absolutely fits her profile. Then there is Theory 3, which the Reddit communities and the True Crime Society sources refer to as the Mr. F anomaly. Let's look right across the hall to room 2804.
The Belgian man.
Yes, a Belgian man, referred to in the sources as Mr. F, checked into that room on Friday. Years later, a journalist tracked him down in Belgium to ask if he heard anything unusual that weekend. Mr. F claimed that when he checked out on Saturday morning, the front desk told him about the dead woman on the 28th floor.
Which is a glaring factual impossibility.
Exactly.
The woman was not discovered dead until 8:04 p.m. on Saturday night. That is 12 hours after Mr. F supposedly checked out of the hotel. How could the front desk tell him about a body that hadn't been discovered yet?
Unless, of course, he knew about the death before the hotel did.
It's a massive discrepancy that has never been fully explained. And while we are talking about patterns and anomalies, there's a fascinating connection brought up in the Reddit sources comparing Jennifer Fairgate to the famous Isdal woman case.
For those who don't know, the Isdal woman was another unidentified woman found dead in Norway back in 1970. She also had all the tags cut out of her clothes. She also used fake Belgian aliases, and isotopic testing later showed she also had German origins.
We must be careful not to conflate the two cases as they happen 25 years apart.
Right, definitely separate cases.
However, we use this connection purely to demonstrate a point. This specific pattern of meticulous identity, erasure-cutting tags, utilizing fake Belgian addresses, untraceable travel, has a historical precedent in this specific region of the world. It is a known, documented method used by people operating completely outside the law, whether in espionage, smuggling, or organized crime.
It is truly mind-boggling. When we pull all of this together, the major takeaway for me is just how bizarre the reality of the case is. We have her DNA. We have the serial numbers on her military watch. We have the specific watchmaker's battery etchings. We have fingerprints. Her face and the details of her room were broadcast worldwide on major platforms like Netflix. And yet, decades later, the woman we call Jennifer Fairgate has remained completely unidentified. Not a single family member, old classmate, or former colleague has ever successfully claimed her. It really makes you reflect on how incredibly difficult it is to truly disappear in the modern world, yet somehow she managed to do it flawlessly.
It is a profound mystery.
Mm.
But I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. Something that wasn't deeply explored in the main theories, but builds directly on the physical evidence we've discussed today.
Go ahead.
If our rule is to stay entirely focused on the physical evidence in that room, we must return to that black briefcase.
Right.
The authorities found 32 rounds of 9mm ammunition in room 2805.
Right.
That is an extreme, almost absurd amount of firepower for a simple suicide. Frankly, it is even too much ammunition for a standard targeted assassination, which usually requires nothing more than a single magazine.
So what was all that for?
The sheer volume of bullets suggests that room 2805 wasn't just a place to hide, or even just a place to die. The physical evidence strongly suggests it was a staging ground for a much larger, potentially violent event, one that was intercepted in silence before it could ever happen.